Okay, Barbara, whenever you feel as though we should get started, I'm on board.
Okay, it's 6:05, so we should get started now. Okay,
Great.
ready?
Take it away.
Okay, hello to everyone and welcome to the Southside Community Council's second virtual development activities meeting. My name is Barbara Rudiak and I'm the president of the Southside Community Council. Our mission is to maintain, improve, and protect the quality of life for the residents of the South Side. So as I go through the agenda, what I would like to do is, we'll share the purpose of the dams, of Southside Community Council's involvement in development on the South Side. You'll hear how to participate in this virtual dam. We'll be looking at 3 projects this evening, and you can see them on the screen, and then we'll talk about next steps. So since this is a new process and there are new participants attending, I wanted to share what an RCO and a dam are and follow that with how our community's been involved in development in the past, as I mentioned. The Southside Community Council became a registered community organization in January 2020 through the Department of City Planning. As a result, when an applicant goes to the city requesting to go before the Zoning Board of Adjustment, the Planning Commission, Art Commission, and/or Historic Review Commission, they must contact the RCO for that community and schedule a dam. At these public meetings, there will be a city planner in attendance who documents that a meeting has taken place, who is in attendance, and prepares notes that are made public via the city planning website. These meetings are an attempt to reach out to a larger community so they can become more knowledgeable about what's happening in our neighborhood and voice concerns that may affect them where they live. 2 of our city planners are with us today, Anthony Kobach, who will be documenting the meeting, and his colleague Stephanie Joy Everett, who is the meeting host. We'll hear from Stephanie a little later regarding the logistics. Anthony will now share when dams are necessary. Next slide.
Thanks, Barbara. Yeah, the next slide here. It basically at the top when it says a public hearing, it's one of the commission meetings, and in this case for these projects today, a historic review commission, the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and the Planning Commission are the 3 types of public hearings that would trigger or require a development activity meeting. But it takes one more step, and it would mean the public hearing plus one of the project thresholds. And you see the long list of potential developments that would trigger this. I want to at least take your eyes to the last 2, which is basically any project of any size, of any scale that is going to Historic Review Commission would also trigger a dam, as well as Art Commission. But for the other projects and other commissions, you would actually have to have some sense of a significant size to the project. So very, very, very small projects would not trigger that. Because I guess the mindset or the thinking is that these are smaller projects and less of an impact or significance in the neighborhood. But you'll see like 4 units or more residential units. One project has upwards of close to I think 20. So again, that's where things are triggered. Back to you, Barbara.
Okay. So. It's important to note that the Southside community has been involved in development projects, including Southside Works, for over 30 years. To guide their meetings within Southside Works, the Development Review Committee uses the preliminary land development plan specific to Southside Works. It's a master plan that includes details for infrastructure, development patterns, landscape design, and architectural details, and is accompanied by zoning text specific to Southside Works. So members of the committee are in attendance and may reference the plan in their comments. You can find the guide at the city planning websites under specially planned districts. In the past, the Development Review Committee shared their comments with the community at the Southside Planning Forum meetings that were held each month and reported on in the South Pittsburgh Reporter. Our first presentation is focused on changes to a building that is located in our historic district. Hopefully you're aware that East Carson Street from the 600 block to the 2700 block and various side streets are designated as the East Carson Street Historic District, and as a result, developers must adhere to certain guidelines when making changes to the outside of the properties in this area. We're fortunate to have in our community a group of architects who have an understanding of these guidelines and meet regularly to review proposed changes. They are present, they are also present in their support or concerns around these plans to they present their plans to the city's Historic Review Commission. So they may be referencing the guidelines if they have any comments. And you can find a copy of our district guidelines and a map of the East Carson Street Historic District at the city planning website under the Historic Review Commission. Lastly, developers of smaller projects have met with the Southside Community Zoning Committee, usually when variances are being requested that may affect the quality of life of residents who live nearby. As a result of these meetings, we can inform the zoning board of adjustment that we met with the developers, learned about the projects, and how we may have attempted to resolve any issues related to the projects. So now Stephanie will share how to participate in the dam.
Hello, everyone. So we'll be having those 3 presentations, and after each presentation, you'll be invited to ask questions or give your comments. You can do that in a couple of ways. You can use the Q&A tool to ask your question. I'm sorry that it says the chat feature, but in the chat, it lists the ways to ask questions. So use the Q&A tool to type your question, and I would read that to the presenter, or you can raise your hand by using the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen, and then I'll unmute you in the order that was requested. And for anyone calling in, you can hit *9, and that raises your hand, and then I would unmute you so you could ask your question. I would announce the last 4 digits of your phone number before I unmuted you. And please do note that we are recording this meeting, and we will provide that to the RCO, and they can share that on their website if they would like.
Okay, we're ready for the first presentation. James Kopak will be presenting on the project at 1700 East Carson Street.
Hi, thank you for having me. I just wanted to real quick explain that Mr. Joe Perotti shared some drawings, I think, with Barbara and things of that nature, and I wasn't sure that I needed to have a presentation tonight. I didn't know if those drawings were distributed amongst the council and the committee, and I was here to answer any questions. Now, I can share my screen. I do have those drawings and the design and those things that, that we would like to show, or that we show that our project is what we're proposing on at 1700 Carson Street.
Yeah, do you want to share your screen?
Sure. All right. Can everybody see all right?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I do have the drawing though, James, I can see it now.
So,
Great.
So that's the building right there, right at the corner of 1700 and East Carson. Verizon Wireless has a signed lease agreement with the landowner, the landlord there, that's the current owner of the building, to install our wireless communication facility on top of there. We are planning 3 different sectors, one shooting up and down East Carson Street, and one in the back of the building shooting towards like the south side flats, or the cliffs area or the slopes. You can see here on page 2 up on top, we're planning on enclosing a structure with inside that structure we'll have our equipment, and on the edge of the corners we will have flush mounted antennas, all painted to match the exterior of the building, and to stealth them as best as we can with matching the paint and blending as well as we can. We do have so there'll be 2 sections there. That's the front of the building that you can see, and like I said, the antennas will be facing up and down East Carson Street. Our back sector, that's the rear of the building that you can see there. Sorry about that. It's the rear of the building you see there, and then there you can see our antennas. And I have to apologize, this design that we have, this is being proposed as a wrap of our antennas, a mirror finish wrap by 3M. That's when these were generated. This photo sim was generated, but I was just told yesterday, that 3M wrap is no longer available. So I do have a picture of another project that we would propose, is something along these lines here. This is in Dormont, on Mount Lebanon district, a canister. That's what our new proposal will be once we update our drawings, and we can update our photo sims to reflect that for that rear sector. It's a canister type. It would look more like a chimney sticking up instead of a set of antennas. There it is without, and then there it is with. So that's what we have for our photo sims. We have our drawings here. We'll show, if all can see, this is East Carson Street. We would be going west and east up and down East Carson Street with our antennas placed here at this corner and here at this corner, and then here in the back is
James, we're still seeing the image of the backside of the building.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You might have to change which screen you're sharing. So you might have to stop sharing and then restart sharing a different document.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Share screen. Can everybody see now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is our part of a page out of our construction drawings. Here, we're going to access this rooftop from the staircase here. There's an emergency set of staircase that goes from ground level to the top of the roof. We'll be coming out there. Here is where our equipment platform is going to be. This is going to all be enclosed, and then on the exterior walls is what will be painted and blended to match the exterior of the building. And then we are flush mounting our antennas at this corner going west on East Carson, and at this corner going east on East Carson. And then back in this area right here is our third sector shooting, to the south up onto the slopes. And that is the sector there that we will show as a canister that will look like more of a chimney type of just a cylinder type of canister with our antennas built inside that. So were you guys able to see the canisters that I showed?
No, we did not see that.
Okay, I will do that right now. And there you go. So this is the building that we're proposing on in 230 Beverly Road in Dormont. Actually, it's Mount Lebanon. It's Mount Lebanon borough or municipality of Mount Lebanon. This is the canister I was referring to. I could see if I can kind of blow that up a little bit, where it would kind of look just like a, a chimney, a stack of some sort sticking up out of the roof. There it is without it, and there it is with it. That's what we're going to be proposing for our rear sector on the building at 1700 Carson. So if anybody has any questions at this time, or if there's I'd be more than willing to answer anything that you guys would need.
Barbara, I guess I'll kick it off to you first for questions.
My only question, were there 3 sectors, or did you mention 3 sectors or 2?
3. There's going to be 2 in the front of the building going east and west on East Carson Street, and then the rear sector that's going to be enclosed inside the cylinder, shooting up to the south.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
You put some more dimensions on it for us all. There's been some questions in the chat. Can you just give a plan dimension of the main area that's in the middle and a maximum height off the roof, finished roof?
Yes. I'll share my screen again and I'll show those. We have elevating, there we have an elevated drawing of the building. Looks like top of the parapet is 55 feet. The highest part there's a chimney at 67 feet. Top of the antenna will be 65 feet.
That's on the back one, yeah. What about the front one?
Let's see. There. So the top of it looks like 8 feet above the parapet line right there. 8 feet to the top. So probably from sidewalk level, you probably will never even see these from the sidewalk. Just looking up. I mean, that's just an opinion. I'm not sure 100%. Like I said, even to get our photo sims, you could tell that we were very far back on the building just to see them, from the east and the west.
Yeah, I was just concerned with across the street. The street is pretty wide there. And if I looked up, if I would see that sticking up. And I don't know, I feel like you're going to see it from across the street at that height, at that setback. Is there anything with the technology in which you're using to locate it that you can't move it back another 4 or 5 feet? So that it's less likely to be seen from directly across the street when looking at the front of the building?
Yeah, I can tell you that this was the location from an RF, radio frequency engineer, came up with, because we actually looked at all that, where can we go as far back? I mean, we always want to make it less intrusive to anybody. But what happens is with the top of this roof being so long, we end up getting shading, and then it would just shoot over the streets. If we move these back any farther, then we're just, like I said, shooting more rooftop than we are actually getting out to where we need to be.
Also, is this unit replacing part of your existing infrastructure that's either on this building or another close by, or adding to the network? Are you getting rid of one somewhere else?
No, it's just adding to the network. This is a capacity site. If I'm not mistaken, Verizon, obviously already has a presence there on East Carson Street, but with just technology and all the apps, and on a Friday, Saturday night, 1,000 people wanting to get Ubers and running Snapchats. I mean, the system is just getting overrun with more of the apps and data being run than the actual voice, talk, and text.
So I have a quick question here. When you showed the original elevation, it's not really clear when we're looking from the west, and you can see the large enclosure above the roof line. is that a new enclosure or is that existing? Is that like an existing elevator shaft, or is that something you're adding to the roof? Is there anything on the roof right now?
No, that would be something we're adding to hide all our equipment.
Can you show that again, please?
Sure, the actual photo sim?
Yes.
Yes. So there's the rear.
Can you show it from the west?
Yeah.
Okay. That's taken from, not too far across the street.
Yeah, I would think the Nakama building's right across the street diagonally. This is probably not even a half a block down, 100 yards maybe.
And then can I ask, what is the situation with the similar infrastructure on the Nakama building? It's my understanding that the same owner owns both buildings and has recently come to us with plans for the Nakama building to do some major work on that building. Can this infrastructure be put on the Nakama building instead, where there's already similar infrastructure in place?
I'm sorry to say, but no, that was one of the first, when I first did the original site acquisition and worked with the radio frequency engineers on this, I mean, that was my first location because of the already existing antennas on the Nakama building. But here's the issue with the Nakama building. If I'm not mistaken, there's already 3 carriers on that building. It's pretty already I'm not going to say overrun, but it's very crowded already. And to get what the RF objective was, we couldn't get the azimuths that we needed because they were already taken up by the AT&T and T-Mobile or Sprint sites that are already there. I know AT&T and Sprint are on that. I don't know, and I think there's a third one, but I'm not 100% sure.
And the last question is, would that large silver stack then stick up behind this box where that red arrow is? You'd have another 3 or 4 feet of silver antenna?
No, actually, that cylinder type of stack that we were going to do to enclose that third sector, it's on the far total end, opposite end of this building. This building runs the whole way to Carey Way, the alley of Carey Way. It would be off of that back portion of Carey Way, the building on Carey Way.
And I'm sorry, but this building is substantially taller than the deli that's on the corner here. So are you saying that there would be a freestanding 8-foot silver pipe sticking up out of the back of the building on the Carey Way, where Carey Way is?
Yeah, it wouldn't be silver. I mean, we could paint that to match any color, to make it look like we can paint it to match any color. We would probably propose it to match the color of the existing building.
Do you have any rendering or way to show what that would look like from approximately this line of sight?
Yeah, there's the rear of the building there. And like I said, I'll blow this up because we originally proposed a mirror 3M tape, but that's where it would be located right there. That's the actual antennas as a mirrored finish. But again, like I said, that mirror finish I just found yesterday is being discontinued and we can no longer get it. And that's when we're going to put the cylinder type that was on the building at 230 Beverly.
It looks like we have a couple of questions from the chat and a couple of raised hands. So I'm going to go to Mike McKay and unmute you or give you the ability to speak. Mike, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, my question was actually answered, I guess. I was curious as to why they chose that building to put the antennas on, and I thought you'd go with the highest building, the tallest building, but I know Nakama's a bit taller, but as you said, there's already service over there, and I think they've already put one of these structures up on the old St. Joe's Hospital last summer. So I always just thought it had to be the tallest building, but not necessarily, I guess, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else, Mike?
No, that's all. I'm sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Jeff and Kitty, I'm going to unmute you now. You had a number of questions in the chat. I'm going to actually have to promote you to panelist due to the version of Zoom that you have. So one moment, Jeff and Kitty, it may look like Zoom is shutting down, but it's not. Just let it finish. One moment. Okay, Jeff and Kitty, you should be in here and able to unmute yourself to ask your question. Hi, we can see you. I think we can hear you. Jeff and Kitty? I think we may be having some technical difficulties here.
Is it possible to ask the questions from the chat?
Yeah. So let's see here. So Jeff and Kitty asked about this size. So does flush mounting mean that they do not have to rise above the walls?
Did you hear about these new Geicos?
Correct. Flush mount means that it would be mounted flush. There will be no antenna sticking up above that structure. It would be all painted to match, the color of the exterior of the building.
And how tall is the chimney or the canister? I think you indicated that it was 8 feet.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, I was going to say with our drawing showing the elevation of the building, or elevation drawing of the building. The back antenna was at 65 feet, the parapet. So it's looking maybe 10 feet. The parapet is at 55. The top of that rear antenna is 65. So a total of 10 feet.
And is this for 5G?
No, it is not. It's a 4G capacity coverage site.
And then I think the last couple of comments or questions I'm going to read to you. So it's our understanding that the PUC likes to group all of these towers together. We could have 8 of these things here. So could the canister be situated by the chimney on the top of the building?
Let's show the chimney.
You mean like attached to the chimney? I'm sorry.
Let's see. Hold on. They are on by telephone. So they were having some technical difficulties with the through the Zoom. So I'm going to unmute the phone number with the last 4 digits of 8976. I think this is Kitty. So
Yeah.
Hello, are we unmuted?
You're unmuted. Hi.
Unfortunately, we lost a good bit of the information when we whenever we went into Zoom land but I understand, I heard enough that this was not 5G, but what's I mean, is there anything stopping the landowner from saying, not only do we welcome Verizon's equipment, but if we can make some more money, understandably, from AT&T and some other carriers, is there anything stopping additional towers and canisters being put on that roof?
Great question. Again, the Nakama building that's right adjacent has already 3 carriers. AT&T is already present there. I know Sprint, and I'm pretty sure T-Mobile is planning or going on to that.
Right, I know that's everyone, I know communities don't want these towers everywhere, so they try to group them together.
Sure.
But for our neighborhood, that would be, and we live right on 17th Street, a stone's throw from the mall building. And we already see that forest of structures on top of Nakama. And we're not looking forward to having a forest of structures on top of the mall building either, or as well. There is a little white shed.
There's a white structure on top of the building. Could it be put beside that?
I'm not
Or
100% sure what the little white structure would be. I've been on that roof many a times, and like I said, I know structurally, the front of the building where we're at structurally is the best place that we could find for putting our structure on that building.
well, I'm just looking at it from visually because I just took a picture from my deck, and that's very. I don't look down on the top of the building, but if I was further up the hill, I probably could look down on the building.
Sure.
And there's a white structure on top that was added to the top of the mall building at one point. If you group those together so that you at least keep the line of sight from blocking, that would be a value. To
Yeah.
minimize clutter off the whole front.
And I'm wondering if that was the one of the white structures is a like an air conditioning unit or something like that. Maybe a new chiller or something like that along the roof.
Well, it's completely encased, so we don't know what's inside it, but it's quite a sizable shed that's on top of that roof.
So our question is, looking at line of sight, could your structure be in line with that so that it doesn't become a whole now another addition to the height of the building throughout the.
I'm wondering if this is something that you're seeing with the white structure, if it's our, the HVAC units or something along that.
It very could be the HVAC unit.
You can't move that. That's on his computer.
Move my picture, but I can't do that.
Yeah, and then there was the penthouse, the access to it, and the existing chimney.
Well, what I'm trying to prevent is the same thing that happened to Nakama with a whole series of buildings that actually end up raising the roof line another 8 feet.
Yeah, I'm sure, and believe me, I cannot guarantee nothing in this world of technology, but with all the major players already there across the street, I cannot see, I cannot ever guarantee, but I can't see that why they would move from one building to the other or why they would add another set of antennas right across the street. I can't see that ever happening. But
Well, if they went to 5G, that would require new equipment, wouldn't it?
well, they would just probably swap out and replace what they already had. They usually don't add, they would just maybe, if they ever would go to 5G here. As of right now, the 5G technology isn't in these macro sites and these large antennas. 5G right now, they are going on the small cells on city street corners and on top of telephone poles and things of that nature. They don't have the technology yet to go on these kind of antennas in this kind of site.
So James, not talking about the other communication companies, let's just talk about Verizon.
Sure.
Would you be seeing the mall building roof as a possibility for Verizon's 5G growth?
And the mall building is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and if so, what additional things could we look forward to?
Now, just a clarification, and you're considering the building that we're talking about, the mall building?
Oh, yeah, it's probably changed its name now. Yeah, but it's been in fact, it's still on the building, MAUL. That's the name that was given when it was built, and it still bears the name. So yes, that's what I was calling it.
Okay, just like I said, I apologize.
No, I understand that not everyone calls it the mall building.
A good question. As far as 5G antennas go, what they would probably do is just swap these out. I would never see that they would add another full structure, another full building to house just another 2 antennas or what it would be. That with technology moving all the time, there's always antennas swaps, and once they would be able to have that kind of technology on these antennas, sure, they could swap these out and put 5G there, but it wouldn't be a whole brand new structure like it is right now, because we are inside of a lease area, and that's where we have to stay by the landowner.
Yeah, but he could extend his lease area.
Sure.
Still required, right? Yeah.
Sure. That definitely.
Yeah. So that's not much of a protection, I guess, against expansion.
Yeah.
No, I think, I don't know if anyone else has watched the progression of the Nakama building and all the structures that are on top of that building, but they are powerful statements. And we are just now learning what they are. The last couple of years, what's going on that roof? So now we know.
Well,
thank you for your responses.
No problem. And honestly, with the development of technology and all the infrastructure and everything that's going on in the South Side, it's a happen and growing place, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, the suggestion I have is that if you're going to build a building that's going to be raise the roof line, put it beside where it's already been raised by that white structure, HVAC, as you've got, so that it doesn't continue to block the view.
Or disturb other views.
Yeah. So that's all. That's just the consideration that I would, if you could do it, that'd be great.
I appreciate that. And again, just being on that roof, this structure here, if you can see my screen in the outline, is the most structural capacity, part of the roof that's there. That is the existing stairwell that runs from tower or from roof down to the basement. And this is about 2 feet thick of solid concrete walls. Outside of that, out on this roof area and other roof areas, you run into where it's just a wood structure type of roof. So structurally, this is no doubt the best place for us to be, structurally.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is no.
and we're trying to keep it in line with the HV that's already here. We did.
Yeah, we see that it's lined up in that same general area, but it would be greater if it were closer. But okay, well, at least we know.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Feel free.
No, you can do that.
You can do it.
Okay. Any other questions from other attendees? Feel free to raise your hand or put a question in the chat or Q&A.
So James, this kind of penthouse thing you're proposing for the roof here, you talk about the exterior surface being painted to match. What's the material of that exterior surface?
Very good question. I'm not 100% sure.
Because what I wanted to ask you next is, we've done this on other cell sites. I mean, everyone loves their phones, but they don't like all the, stuff that makes them work.
Sure.
But if it's possible, it's kind of masquerading as an elevator penthouse, which, there's ample precedent for. I'm wondering, to clean up the exterior, is it possible to make the exterior surface of this penthouse, let's call it, out of radio transparent fiberglass so that the antennas can be inside the enclosure instead of stuck on the outside?
Great question. I do know that they're having a very hard time finding products like that. And I do know the cost of those projects, or those kind of panels, are very, very expensive. So I don't know if that led to this design, one, for availability, and two, with cost. But
all right. I mean, and as an alternative, I was kind of interested, and now very sad to hear about 3M not making that magic wrapper stuff anymore, because honestly, if you could stealth this out and have it reflect the sky, that would be the best disappearing act, I would think, but it sounds like that's not a possibility anymore.
yeah, correct. We've tried.
Shoot.
Yeah, I was going to say, I actually have another site in the city of Pittsburgh at 100 Ross Street by the Pittsburgh National PNC Bank building that was already approved, and we already had zoning approval. We had everything. And then now I got to resubmit and, go back to the drawing board because we can't find it anywhere.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right.
Stephanie, it's
Yeah.
Anthony. If we could, I forget how we did this last time, identifying all the participants, either in the chat, typing in, or not sure how we should do that. I know Southside Community Council members are here, the development team presenting, residents, or anyone else that I'm missing, LRC members or business owners. We're just trying to identify it for the report.
Are you able to look at the participant list?
That just gives me names.
I can provide you with most of that information.
Okay, afterwards, yeah, as long as someone can identify,
Mhm.
I have a Chris on the line there. There's no last names for people,
Mhm.
so as long as it just is identified, and there could be other participants, presenters just waiting to present too. So, okay, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, our second presentation is with Dave Morgan and Chris Clark on 905 Bingham Street.
Okay, Chris and Dave, you're more than welcome to share your screen.
You can actually talk as you normally do.
Doing
I
well.
can put it to your ear.
I'm,
And Jeff and Kitty, I'm gonna move you back to an attendee.
Stephanie, real quick, if I can just interject real quick, I just want to thank everybody for your time tonight.
Thank you. My apologies for not saying thank you prior to bringing on Dave and Chris.
Now, should I stick around to the end? Is there something more, or how do I guess what would be the next step for us?
Thank you very much, James. For those in attendance, additional comments can be shared with the Southside Community Council via email at info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org, where at this point, we're not sure of the date that it will go to the Historic Review Commission. But when it does, we'll let the residents know, and they can provide a testimony and at that meeting. What I will do is also, James, is just share with you. You'll have Anthony's report, and then I'll touch base with the local review committee to see if there were any additional questions or concerns, so that can be shared at the Historic Review Commission meeting when it's scheduled.
Stephanie, is it more trouble than it's worth to throw up that slide real quick about sending comments in? Not to pull the slide, the screen away from the other presenter. But James, the organization has 30 days to kind of put their comments together and respond. And the HRC, the Historic Review Commission, always meets once a month at the beginning. I think it's the first Wednesday of the month. So, obviously we would not be able to miss the September meeting, but most definitely the October meeting would work. But yeah, Barbara, there's the you were touching on those ways for people to comment.
Mm-hmm. So we'll be in touch, James, with you and Joseph.
Yeah, thank you. And please CC Joe Parati on all, and CC me along with it. And I appreciate everyone's time tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Chris, now you're able to share your screen.
We actually have to get David to share his.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I just
there he goes.
shared my screen. This is David Morgan. Can everyone
Yes.
see the drawing?
We can see the drawing, but it's a little hard to hear you. So maybe if you could speak a little closer to your computer.
Sure. Is that a little better?
It is. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Do you want me to begin, or is there an introduction to this?
You're fine. You can begin.
Okay, thank you. So my name is David Morgan. I am an architect with Morgan Architecture and Design. I'm presenting today the 9th and Bingham Street condominium project, or not necessarily condos, apartments. Things have changed over time with this, but I've been working on this project for a little over 20 years now. So the name of this has changed several times over that period of time, et cetera. But I think you would recognize the building from, I think I have some photographs here. It is the old Macintosh Hemp Hill Foundry building. Those photographs aren't on here, but I think you can recognize it from the elevation on Bingham Street heading down Bingham Street away from 10th Street. So, so as I said, this building has been empty for more than 20 years now. I was hired when I was with my dad's firm back then to look at filling this building up and restoring it, and it's only now happening. So the drawings I'm going to show you right now are ones that have been presented at the Historic Review Commission over the course of 2 hearings and have been approved. I don't know that I've changed every note, so there may be a note or 2 on here that does not reflect the approval, but for the most part, these have been submitted and approved by the Historic Review Commission. And I think, we're here for reasons other than the Historic Review Commission. I'm sure we would have been here for that as well, although we submitted this back in, I think, January for approval. So that may be why
Mhm.
we had this meeting in advance of coming to you guys. But regardless, we're here anyway, so we welcome any comments that you have. I'll just start with the basics of this project, and I may turn it over to Chris, or I definitely will turn it over to Chris, who's one of the owners, for his input coming up here in a little bit. But this is a site plan laid over top of a site photo, and it just gives you sort of the lay of the land of this project. We've got two buildings on the site right now. I call this building A and building B for simplicity's sake. This building A was an office building. Building B was a pattern shop for an old steel fabrication mill. And then there were mill things that were going on here in this parking lot. This parking lot is the Holiday Inn parking lot behind the Holiday Inn on 10th Street. So this is Bingham Street and 9th Street. So there are these two buildings. We are proposing a link between those two buildings that I'll show you. And we are also proposing renovating this parking lot here, which will also be part of this project. It is across the street, which is one of the reasons we're here, because this is off-site parking technically, because we're across the street here. So this slide is essentially to show you the proximity of the proposed remote parking lot to the apartments. Paved area, about 8,100 square feet. Impervious area, about 2,200 square feet. Because that includes some solid, there's some building here that comes along with it as well. So for zoning, what we'll be presenting, one of the things that I know zoning was interested in seeing were the site trees, the trees along both Bingham and 9th Street. So we are proposing a 3-foot by 10-foot tree well along both of these streets at 30 foot on center spacing. We'll also be providing buffers and landscaping along the parking lot as well. This is some of the stuff we presented to the Historic Review Commission. So we are planning on, as much as humanly possible, restoring the building. So if anyone has been down that way, you'll know that this building is in real desperate shape right now. Big hunks of the roof are missing, windows are missing. Most of the windows have been taken out and thrown away. And inside looks like a rainforest, and some pretty severe structural damage going on in there. So it's our intention to get in there, shore everything up, and make everything structurally sound so that we can put apartments in there. The on this facade, which is the primary facade, the Bingham Street facade, what we proposed to the HRC and what they approved was that in this building, building A, which is the small office building, we would find all of the existing windows that are still there. And there's not a lot of them, but there may be 15 or so existing sashes in the building, sort of covered with tarps. And so we've committed to taking those, restoring those back, to what they were, reinstalling those in the existing openings. Where those don't exist, then we proposed that we would install new wood windows, set new wood sashes within those frames. And so this building A would have an entire wood window system in it, front, side, and rear. On this building, we had originally asked to do all of this in wood and all of the rear in fiberglass, and we did get permission to do that back in February, or I think it was February or maybe January. But we did go back to the commission after that and requested a change to that, because what we thought would make more sense is to treat this building A, which was the Foundry building or the pattern shop, as one unit. So the front windows and the rear windows are of the exact same material. And then to restore all of the windows in this building as I explained just a moment ago. So this building would have all wood windows, front, side, and rear. And this building would have fiberglass windows front and rear. One of the requests by the Historic Review Commission was that, if they allowed us to do that, would we add these divided lights? We originally presented these without divided lights. And the owner had agreed to put those divided lights in. And we took this directly from some existing drawings of the original construction of this building. So this is what they look like. These are the divisions that existed. There is a link between the two buildings, and that's what you see right here or right here, looking at it in context with both of the buildings. This, what you see here, is a brick wall that exists right now. The opening's covered in plywood, and it's just a wall. That's all that's there. So what we're doing is proposing to enclose behind this and install a new opening there to enter. Additionally, we'd have a new entrance to this building A here on the Bingham side. This is the rear elevation. I don't know how in depth you want me to go with this presentation in terms of pointing out, you know, the every opening, or if you just want an overview and then you can ask questions.
Yeah, I would say, Dave, just an overview, and then if anyone has questions, because as you mentioned, the reason you're here is because of the off-site parking.
Correct. Yep.
And,
Yep. So yeah, I mean, I'll make these. I've emailed these out so to Anthony, so he can, and to you, Barbara. So you know, you can distribute these as you see fit. But this basically outlines all of the architectural work going on the site in this building, and the link. So I guess there's not too much to say about the remote parking lot. Obviously, because it's remote, we do need to go in front of zoning. We are providing, 23 parking spots on that site, repaving it, restriping it, and of course doing all of the landscaping around it as well. And it is literally just across the street from the small building here. So I don't want to go on too much. I know you guys probably have a lot of questions, so maybe I'll just turn it back to you for any questions. And then Chris can jump in as well to talk a little bit about, you know, the plan for the interior of the building, what the apartments will consist of.
If I could just ask one clarifying question before we get started.
Yes.
We're talking about the remote parking here. Can you tell me what the zoning district is there? What's the base district? And then just clarify, is that the only variance you required? And is that just a variant? Is it just a variance to have accessory parking, or do you need a use variance as well? Just what exactly are the variances that we're reviewing?
So the only variance is the remote parking. There is a requirement. These are currently on two separate lots that need to be consolidated, and that process is going on right now as well. But that's not really a variance. The variance is the remote parking. And I don't know whether, Anthony, you can jump in. I know you reviewed this, so if you have anything else that you want to.
This is a change of use, but it's a by right use in the current form, in the proposed form. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not technically the zoning staff. I'm in the strategic planning side of things, but just confirming that yeah, the only variance is, as it's worded, is someone just said special exception needed due to off-site parking. So, and I think Barbara, on another topic, wasn't this project? It went before Historic Review Commission before Southside Community Council became an RCO too, so that was the other technicality, and
Yes,
it didn't come.
The local review committee has worked with Dave on, you know, on the work. So, you know, they shared their input, you know, at the Historic Review Commission meeting.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think a question is, how many, you know, you've indicated how many spots, there are 23. How many apartments are in the apartment building?
Yeah, I'm going to let Chris go ahead and talk a little bit about the interior. I'm actually not the architect for the interior layout of the building. I'm the exterior architect. So Chris can jump in here. Is he still on?
Yes, I'm on. There are 17 apartments, all of which are studios and one-bedroom apartments.
Mhm.
I thought I saw a 2-bedroom in your plans. Did I not, or was that removed?
If there's a 2-bedroom down there,
Bottom
that
left.
would be news to me. Okay, I do see that. There is one 2-bedroom apartment in the bottom left floor. I apologize for that. Actually, that has been changed because the stairwell in the basement actually egresses out the rear. So that bedroom there is gone. That's why. It is just a 1-bedroom apartment down there. That stairwell continues out the back side of the building, not the front side.
And we did that just for clarification because we did not want to have, and I know HRC didn't want us to have a door cut in here on Bingham Street that would be an exit from a fire stair. So what we're doing is we're going to use this door opening for that exit from the fire stair. It's on the back and tucked far back in the corner. So we're able to maintain the rhythm here of that elevation.
And then what does a person do when they exit? Is there a walkway on the site all the way along
Yeah.
the back there? I know it's very tight. It's maybe 10 feet or less.
Yeah, there's
10 feet. Yeah, it's a sidewalk and it actually will be handicap accessible back there.
Okay. Is that fence, are you putting up new partition between you and the?
Yeah, we're working with the Holiday Inn right now to come up with what type of fencing we're putting in there.
I guess one question we always ask is about where trash is.
So the plan right now, per David's plans, is to have the dumpster in the rear courtyard behind the link between the buildings. However, that area might need to be used for air conditioning condensers. If that is the case, we will have canisters in that location, and then we will have a dumpster over in the parking lot that can be emptied multiple times a week.
Okay. So reduced parking count, does that put you below your count though? If you have to.
No, this is actually, someone had asked, this is Riverfront.
RIV?
Yeah, RIV, and we have at least 1 parking spot per apartment, which more than covers us, yes.
And then is the remote parking lot deeded with the buildings, or is it a separate parcel?
It is a separate parcel, but same ownership. We purchased both. So it is all under one ownership group.
And then how is because in the RIV, don't we need ground water retention and stuff like that on an open parking lot now? Has that all been addressed in your design?
David, maybe you can speak to that. I'm not.
Well,
I don't think
it has not been addressed yet. No, but it will be. I mean, we will be meeting those requirements. We're right now in the what I would call the entitlement phase. You know, we're going through the HRC and the zoning to make sure that this stuff is correct. But we're not looking for any variances to that type of thing. I mean, we would provide everything required for.
Well, I'm just wondering about building A and B. I don't think you can do an offset, but I mean, how are we going to deal with stormwater?
So there is no addition to impervious area with buildings A and B. Those roofs are there, and the center part in here is all concrete now. This is a concrete walkway. You know, it's in terrible shape, but it is all currently concrete. So we're not adding any impervious area to the site, for stormwater. We will be restoring all the downspouts, obviously, and tying in. Those have all fallen off the building. Most of those have fallen off the building. So right now, a lot of that water just falls onto the sidewalks or into the building, unfortunately.
Sure.
Can I ask? I'm looking now at I have the Google Earth. I'm actually looking at what this looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe to me directly across 9th Street on Bingham is a white building that has limited parking on Bingham Street.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like a warehouse.
Yes.
Then behind that, there's an asphalt parking lot with loading dock bays that exit onto it. Beyond that, there is a paved parking lot with landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
Where is your proposed parking lot?
So this what I'm outlining right now with my cursor is the building that you're looking at, the warehouse building. This directly behind that is the parcel that comes with this warehouse building. And this parking that you see beyond here it's sort of light, but in this sea of parking behind it is not part of this project. It's not owned by Chris. It's I believe maybe Mercy Behavioral Health owns that or someone else.
Yeah, it's UPMC.
Okay.
Okay. So then my question is about, Chris, do you own the white building?
Yes, we do.
But what's the plan there? Because I'm looking at loading docks that exit onto where you're planning the landscape parking. I just don't know, is the white building vacant? Is it being used? How does that?
It's half vacant, half occupied. Currently half is occupied by the Western PA Conservancy. And, we are going to be, using what we need for our parking in order to get our approval. And yes, at that point in time, then the white building can be vacant, used for storage, that kind of thing.
Okay. The other question I have, you said this is in the RIV.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 17 units.
Mm-hmm.
You need a variance from their maximum parking?
No, the variance is just because it's off-site. It has nothing to do with the number of spots. It's only because it is across the street and not on the same parcel.
I thought the RIV capped it at one space per unit. Am I incorrect?
No, we're just exceeding what their requirement is, basically. We're adding more than one per apartment. Is that what you're asking, or am I not understanding correctly?
No, I thought the RIV contained a cap, and you were allowed either one for every two, or a max of 1 for 1. But I may be incorrect. I was just curious if the spots fit the RIV guidelines.
David, any input on that one?
No, I don't know that, to be honest with you. The interiors architect is working on the zoning portion of this, so I apologize for that. But if that is the case, I don't think we'd be seeking a variance for more parking. We would just use the 17 parking spaces. So I would have to get back to you on that.
Yeah, and then building A need parking as well? Could we not, is that not being utilized for that as well, or do you have other?
Oh, that could be the case, Chris. The building A is office space. And so that may be the case, is that there's parking for the building A, which is office space, and building B, which is the apartments.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Stephanie, I'm not sure if you know that, but again, we're both on the planning side. But with the applicants, Matt, working with the zoning division, yeah, I'm sure that they're at least getting advised and
my understanding is that any off-site, so to speak, parking lot is what you're asking for approval of. It's not the number of spaces. During the actual permit review before the zoning division gives out, I think it's called a ROSA, it's an approval for zoning, it would meet the code. So I do think that the RIV was, forward thinking in that it doesn't want a lot of parking on our riverfronts. So I don't know if there's a parking maximum, but there could be. I just don't know the code offhand, but I can tell you that it will meet the code before it's approved. But what's actually being requested is to have an off-site parking lot.
Okay, and I don't want to beat this to death, but not only do I think that there's a maximum for parking in the RIV, but I also believe that there's a maximum size for surface lot. And I understand that there's a lot here, but because of the garage bays and things, I don't know that what you're planning there would be encompassed in the existing parking footprint. So I think you have to be careful, because the RIV has a maximum size for surface lots in its zoning provisions as well. I'm not trying to say I'm just trying to make sure we're like looking at the right variances. And I'm curious kind of just what, what this is going to look like down the road. But okay.
Yeah, and I would just say that, because we're in the sort of more of the beginning stages with the historic, getting the historic review approval and wanting to know whether this remote lot is acceptable at all, whether a remote lot is going to be acceptable to the community. I'm sure that the ultimate design of that is going to meet what's required. There is even the opportunity, potentially in the future to use spaces within that building. So I think that, we're really looking to find out at this point, are you okay with us using the lot remotely? And
if I can interject, it's Anthony again, not to keep beating the horse, Matt, but the other thing to also clarify, and Barbara and I talked about this at the outset, well, before the meeting, with the applicability slide, that in particular this project is it's here, it's part of the public, the public meeting, and then that threshold doesn't get into that particular variance. It's the trigger is the scale of this project, the scale being 4+ units. So it thanks to the presenters. I mean, you're presenting the whole project. So yeah, we're focusing in on the parking lot a little bit, which is fine, but it's really that whole scale of the project that is being brought to the dam as well. When this ends, the applicant does go before ZBA, of course, for this particular piece. But my understanding would be if they only had 3 units and needed a public hearing, this dam would not be triggered. It's the scale of it, not so much that specific variance. Does that make sense, Matt, or to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So again, Stephanie, or I don't know if there are any other comments.
I don't see anyone with their hands raised, and I don't see any new questions in the chat. Let's give folks a minute to raise. Oh, Mike is raising his hand, so I'm going to unmute you, Mike, so you can ask your question.
Okay. First of all, I'm very happy to see that something's going to be done with these 2 buildings. We walk by there quite a lot and always have wondered for years why nobody's taken advantage of them. And that leads me to these buildings being so old. My guess would be that they have a lot of asbestos inside. Is that some issue that you have to remove all that?
No, it isn't, because there's almost nothing inside. I mean, it is. There's no plaster on the walls, at least in Building B, which would have been the one that would have been of the age potentially that would have had some asbestos in the plaster. Now, that being said, I'm sure that there'll be some tests done before all is said and done, and if there is any, there might be some ancillary tile somewhere, in a bathroom that was added later. But these buildings are about as raw inside as you can imagine. It's just some timbers and the brick wall and no windows and plywood. So obviously there'll be some tests done. Some of the phase.
I guess. What about like utilities? I know steam is always insulated, and a lot of times water lines are insulated. And I guess back those days they would have used asbestos.
Yeah,
they've actually already removed all of the old HVAC system, and the only plumbing that we found is actually buried in the brick wall with no insulation on it.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks. That's all I got.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions in the chat? Raise your hand. Okay, I don't hear any, so I'm going to share the screen for the next steps, Barbara, if you'd like to go over that.
Yeah, so again, as Anthony mentioned, we have, 30 days, to review this. And if anyone has any additional comments, they can always email us at info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org. We'll let you know when the zoning hearing is, because again, you can also continue to make public comment either by attending the meeting or sending testimony. So, I'd like to echo what, Mike said, that, we're, I know that Dave, you're happy to see something happen
Absolutely.
to the building, and so are we. So, we look forward to seeing next steps.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yep. Thank you.
And just a quick note, those meetings for ZBA are normally bi-monthly on Thursdays. So that's, again, just for anyone who's listening or present to make a note of that. So after that 30 days, kind of, you look for those 2 times in a month.
Okay.
Thank you, Anthony.
And David and Chris, you're more than welcome to stay on, or you can leave.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going on vacation right now, so I think I'm going to go. That's all right.
Enjoy.
Okay, thanks. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and our last presentation, as we are saying, the Southside box office, Tabitha, you and your team are the main event, and so we're ready to hear your plans for our theater that we're losing.
Great, thank you. Eric Linebarger is going to present our updated design for the theater. So I believe he has control. But yeah, we'll introduce you to the changes happening for this particular building. Thank you.
Great.
And can everybody see my screen all right?
Yeah, it looks great.
Great. Well, thank you all for taking the time this evening to meet with us and to hear kind of the proposed plans for the Southside Works Cinema, now being referred to as the box office. So we are looking at exterior renovations as well as interior updates to the old theater, originally built in 2002, to modernize this into kind of a creative class workplace. Our scope really includes kind of exterior updates on primarily the second and third levels, as well as kind of interior renovations to assist in the conversion from a theater to the office use. The location of this, just for everybody's reference, is in the Southside Works district, and is really kind of the building across the street from the town square, kind of bordering 28th and Tunnel and Sydney, and then the Cinema Drive. The building and the proposed plans do not modify any of the site, any parking, any kind of ground or landscaping planned. Our scope is limited purely to the building envelope and its interiors. Looking, first we'll kind of walk through a series of floor plans. The ground floor, the existing kind of retail spaces are maintained with no modification as part of this scope to those, leaving that space as an asset to the community. We are looking at modifications to kind of create a lobby space, again, in the same area where the theater lobby once was. Really, exterior modifications at that level are limited to pulling out the old kind of box office itself and replacing it with kind of more open glassy front doors that help with just transparency and security for office tenants. We'd also be doing a handful of interior renovations to prepare this for an office user. The upper levels on the second floor, in terms of the interior, we are kind of leveraging that the theater in its original construction was built upon kind of a flat slab. And so in terms of removing theater kind of risers to seat, it's a fairly straightforward process. It's not kind of the traditional kind of cast in place concrete. So for the most part, the second floor is completely opened up. to really maximize its flexibility, marketability, and kind of usability for a modern office user. The main kind of feature on the exterior on this is I'll show shortly in the renderings and elevations, we are removing a lot of the infill corrugated metal panels that once existed and replacing that with a clear glass curtain wall system, again, making it applicable for an office user. We are introducing two existing patios, really kind of on the kind of northwest side of this, overlooking the town square and kind of the Cheesecake Factory property. These patios, each about 1,600 square feet, really are there to kind of help enliven the streetscape, again, give it some vertical height. A major amenity for any office user would be this, with kind of the spectacular views, and really kind of helping just the building feel more welcome as well. The next major kind of a modification is we are adding a third interior level. This is not adding any additional height or modifying the exterior of the building. We are essentially expanding the existing projection level of the building out to the perimeter. So it won't be really seen from the outside. It just provides additional rentable and usable floor area for an office tenant. That includes bringing up this area to building codes, you know, extending the fire stairs, elevators, other uses into this area to make sure it is kind of prime and ready to meet code requirements for a modern office user. Beginning to walk through the elevations, really what's kind of shaded back in light gray is all existing. Again, the kind of pedestrian scale ground level remains essentially untouched. Our modifications are removing some of the existing kind of high parapets here that hid previous kind of mechanical units. We are lowering those parapets and replacing it with a glass handrail to really create those new terraces. That happens on only kind of the northwest facade. We then are keeping the existing kind of framing in place. However, we are cladding it with a new metal panel. It currently is kind of an EVIS structure. We are kind of modernizing that, trying to create a better kind of design, kind of dialogue between the kind of existing brick at the lower level and trying to create a more kind of compelling facade with these metal panels. The existing kind of corrugated metal panels are removed and replaced with curtain wall glass, as you can see here. This west elevation is on top. Really, the east elevation then is down below. This is the elevation that faces the existing parking garage across 28th Street. Similar application here as well. We are leaving a few of the metal panels in place here. Really, that is due to kind of fire stairs and building service elements behind here. Looking at the north and south elevations, again, a very similar approach here. On these elevations, in addition to kind of the new kind of cladding on the second and third levels, we are looking at punching out new windows on the second level within the existing brick. These would align and match in style and aesthetic to the windows directly below them. But doing this to again, break up kind of the longer facades that once had proposed signboards, pieces like that, along it to still provide visual interest and a visual kind of breakdown of the facade, while also kind of maximizing light and the quality of space for an office user. Jumping into kind of the renderings, really this is kind of the overall aerial shot. Really looks at kind of the coloration of the new kind of metal panels on the upper kind of two levels, as well as kind of the glass inserts that go throughout. The brick and the stone detailing remain kind of as existing on the lower levels and on kind of the prominent kind of corner pieces as well. You'll see kind of on the kind of north and south side, or the south side here, the new windows that we are introducing here that would match and kind of frame and profile the existing windows. Stepping down into kind of the Cinema Drive kind of view, You know, we like how this actually provides some more depth by using a darker panel on these upper levels. We think that provides some nice contrast. Also, you know, references some of the metal panels of the surrounding buildings as well. We feel like this creates a kind of harmonious kind of structure between the brick, the kind of stucco, and kind of the icon of the sign, as well as the modern office component. Sitting on the corner, again, looking at it, you know, here you can really kind of see the new terraces. We like kind of lowering this so a pedestrian or a person in the park actually gets better views, as opposed to kind of the elongated kind of existing brick walls that exist today. Stepping inside, I just have a few interior renderings just for reference. Again, we're looking at this to really market towards creative class. You know, a really interesting office space, a really good story to tell about. You know, this used to be a theater, so the escalators and stairs are gone, but kind of replaced with theater seating. That this can kind of become a town hall for any sort of office user. The metal panels here in the interior are kind of ribbed to kind of reference back to the old theater curtains. Still paying homage to the history of the last 20 years of this building, but make it very applicable to a modern office user. Just another view to the openness that will be present here. This is looking out, and you can see kind of the dramatic impact the new glass has in this space. The glass openings, you can see out to the terraces here, but really how important that is to make this office space work. In this view as well, you can see the modifications to the current entry. Really, where we're locating the doors is about where the old box office was. So a similar approach, but just modernized for the security needs, the vestibule sizing, those sorts of components that are necessary for an office. Another view out towards the terraces. This is standing on the kind of new terraces that we're creating with the glass handrails. So again, really trying to kind of maximize the view in and the view out from these to the surrounding community. This is a good kind of overall work or shot that shows kind of the proposed work up on these levels. So again, new glass and where the current kind of corrugated panels were, clouding the previous kind of cream colored stucco and ethos material here in a modern kind of painted aluminum panel here, and then the new terraces as well. So that's the high level overview, kind of the overall summary. You know, a few metrics on the project. You know, it's maintaining kind of its existing size of building. We are increasing the interior area by adding that kind of third level, you know, and so that is adding about 30,000 square feet to this building, bringing it up to about a 75,000 square foot office space, not including the retail on the ground floor. The building's height and positioning, again, landscape are not being modified as part of this scope.
Any questions?
So may I start?
Yes, please.
So a few comments. So I was part of the group, and there's at least one other of us here who was here when this building was originally proposed. So first of all, I just want to say, in general, what's happening on the upper floors is what we wished would have happened 20 years ago, or however many years ago. Much, much better. Nobody was ever really happy with the upper floors, but, you know, EFS was the best we could get. So in general, yes. That's comment number one. Number two, I think the way you've reduced the brick on the lower level is appropriate. It suits the building. It provides more openness without totally undermining the sort of pedestal that the upper floors, exist on. So my two less positive comments are, number one, I understand why you went with a relatively neutral gray, but it's both kind of dull and it seems weird to say that something boring can be of the moment, but right now people are so obsessed with grays and blacks and charcoals. I worry a little bit that those panels in this sort of neutral, dark, warm gray are actually going to age poorly. Obviously, I don't mean physically, I mean aesthetically. And I wonder if something can be done that gives a little bit more pop, a little bit more verve. But not to get too far into the aesthetics, but it is, I mean, those panels sort of are what the upper building is. My only other comment is the signage. It's a massive amount of signage. It's highly visible from the Birmingham Bridge, and it sort of got a pass because the title Southside Works doubled as the name of the theater and also of the whole district. But all three of those, or really four of those signs, being the name of whatever company it is, that's sort of UPMC on the steel building style signage on a 3-story building in a relatively compact neighborhood. So I definitely have some concerns about that. But overall, I think, good job.
Great. Yeah, and just to touch base on the gray color of the upper floors first, we did a number of facade studies, everything from keeping kind of the cream color to, matching some of the silver to dark to black, and kind of everything in between, and we thought this kind of warm, kind of neutral gray actually allowed the glazing and kind of the clear glass that is focused on the office to be showcased the best. You kind of think of how a gallery either frames in white or black for the most part, trying to create that sort of language to showcase the ever evolving kind of office space inside. So we actually felt like this allowed the glass to kind of take priority, and the renderings maybe don't do the best job of showing that because we haven't fully built out the interiors, but we really kind of think that this will actually allow for a more lively and a more interesting facade that lets that workplace be showcased, and so hopefully the workplace then kind of can evolve and can be kind of its time, not only creating a more dynamic facade, but also an ever-changing kind of aesthetic as well. In terms of the signage, and Jonathan with Samara Road, if you want to discuss that any further, the company signs that we're showing in the renderings are only proposed at this point, and that would definitely be something that is probably later discussed with a possible tenant, and how that works as part of that.
Yeah, it'll be further refined down the road. I mean, even some tech tenants, such as Amazon, who's currently in other buildings we own there, they don't want any signage, right? So it may end up, it's really tenant driven, but it may end up that there's no sign.
Speaking of that, Jonathan, there's a question in the Q&A asking if this renovation is being done with any tenant in mind.
Not yet. I would love for it to have a tenant in mind today. This is something, look, we're trying to create an environment, as you all have seen with the town square presentation, and as I'm sure you've heard in the press, and as you'll see moving forward, we're trying to create a cohesive environment that people want to hang out at, people want to stay at, just an active community with all facets of what an active community includes. If we have strong office, it creates a great daytime population for the surrounding retail. And if you have great surrounding retail, people want to live there. And so it's all of these forces perpetuate each other. So we think this is something that needs to happen, and we're moving forward with. It gives a lot of optionality for tenants. I mean, we're basically creating a blank slate that, a tenant has a great rectangle they can work within, and has very high ceilings, has outdoor space. We've created something without COVID in mind, but even in days like today, it's the perfect setup for an office tenant who's looking for high ceilings, outdoor space, all those things that COVID makes you think about.
I have a few questions, if that's all right. Wanted to ask about the rooftop equipment. Obviously, you're going to change from large packaged units to more, I don't know, individual packaged units. Are you adding, removing, changing the equipment on the roof? And how are we going to deal with screening? I just want to make sure it doesn't start encroaching on, you know, close to the parapets, that we start seeing it more around the development. I think a lot of these buildings have been very conscious about placement, that, you know, we don't see that stuff down here because it's been well planned. Have you guys thought about that? Has that come up as an issue? Can we?
Yeah, Michael, this is Chris from HOK. I can speak to that really quick. Eric, I don't know if you want to bring up those sections, but one thing we did, we had a lot of individual rooftop units on the roof for the existing building. We've actually gone to 2 larger packaged units, and we've removed several of the smaller ones. So what we did was try to isolate those to the very center of the roof. And then you can see in the section that Eric's pulling up here, we did some sightline studies for the city, you know, that indicated you would have to be a significant distance away from the building to see those units. And we were pretty conscious of that going into the design with our mechanical engineer, just making sure they were as low to the roof as they could be. You know, in our minds, we've covered that issue pretty well.
Yeah, and just to add on that too, Chris, you know, in our renderings, I mean, you can see one of the units way back there and just starting to peak up. So in all of these renderings, all the mechanical equipment on the roof is actually turned on, again, for us to have sightline studies. So you can see how the parapet height in relationship to where we're placing the unit has hopefully proven successful in most cases.
Yeah, I just don't want to sit in the park, the new park or whatever you want to call it there in the middle and see the unit, you know what I mean, poke it up. So
exactly,
your renderings are a bit short, you know what I mean? If they're 50 feet back further, I would, you know, but it looks like they're far enough, or at least as far as you can go. So that's good. The other thing is trash and recycling. This building was built and designed a long time ago before recycling was mandated. I know it just has a compactor room in the back. Are you making provisions for recycling for the new business office? I'm sure it's going to have more trash than probably from before from the theaters. And then in the same vein, you know, is there a bicycle storage room indoor for this tenant? How are you going to handle that? Because that'll be probably a need and an attraction for a client like that. Yeah, I mean.
I had a couple questions further on the roof units. You said that you had done some sight line studies. Were any of them done from the surrounding hillsides looking down on the site from the south end of the area?
No, all the sightline studies that we did were taken from about, I believe, 60 to 75 feet from the building at grade elevation.
Okay. Because in the original designs of these buildings, that was one of the concerns, the look down from the south side slopes areas on the rooftop accessories. And also, you mentioned that you essentially upsized the units and took out some of the smaller units. Does that increase any of the noise values to the at ground level? I'm assuming unless those units are less in noise with regard to newer improved machinery.
Martin, this is Chris again from HOK. I may need to get back to you on that with my mechanical engineer. I can imagine the newer units would be quieter. They're more efficient units. The reason we did that was really to make sure that we were covering the amount of zoning we would need in an office environment versus what they had for a theater environment. So we could definitely respond to that and you know, make sure, but that's a little bit out of my expertise as to how loud those particular units would be.
Yeah, and typically with the larger units too, we run them at a slower velocity, you know, which typically means less noise as well, to kind of hit their optimum efficiency, you know. And in terms of screening, you know, I think, you know, it's always extremely difficult to screen rooftops from an aerial perspective, you know, because unless you enclose them completely with the roof trellis or something like that, which actually reduces the performance of the units, it's hard to screen them. So, I mean, our hope is, yes, we have larger, more centralized units, but that also means less things on the roof as well, you know. And so it is kind of the thought that let's organize, let's make there be a strategy as much as possible on the roof to hopefully reduce kind of the cluttered ad hoc kind of feel that might be visible.
Barbara and Stephanie, if we could go back on the one question Mike had, I thought he wanted an answer for the recycling and the bike racks, or was that rhetorical?
No, it was. I was asking, you know, I think the room that's there now is just a compactor, right? It's not. Is it sufficient? Have you looked at increasing it in size and footprint?
Yeah, I was going to answer that, Michael. I apologize. No, we did not look at increasing that room in size and footprint. We had deemed it sufficient for what we were going to be putting on it in terms of trash load currently. So we have not planned any additional modifications to that trash room.
Because that room doesn't have any recycling provisions, which the city mandates. So I guess how will you handle recycling as part of the business? Paper, for instance, is required by the city to be recycled.
Yeah, we have other trash locations on site, so our janitorial would use those locations.
Okay. And then a bike room?
And the back rack, yeah. on the bike rack, the URA garages there have bike racks within them that are covered. I totally agree with you. It's a great amenity, and I think any tenant, you know, someone who's taking this space is taking it to attract talent, theoretically younger talent. So I agree with you. The bike portion is going to be very important. We're, as a part of the town square improvements, we're looking at putting bike racks throughout the property. And then again, within the URA garages, I know there are bike racks.
Okay. And then the big one is parking. So what's your occupant load, proposed occupant load, if you run it out as a B versus what it was as a theater? And how does that put us? I mean, are you just relying on the URA parking lots to meet all the requirements?
We are. I mean, there's 10 movie theaters there now at an average of 200 or 150 seats, versus what we're approximating at 300 to 400 employees. You know, Amazon is 40,000 square feet plus or minus, and a lot of their employees take the bus, surprisingly. So they have about 100 contract parkers. So, you know, if you double that, we're at 200. If everyone that's here drives and you have 350, the impact is still much less than the movie theater, and opposite times of the retail, right? It's a different traffic pattern. So I think we're sufficient on the parking side.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to have a parking problem there because that means we're very successful. And I know at some point in the future, you know what I mean? I'd love to.
You and me both.
Yeah. But I know that we always, when we talk about what's coming in and what's coming up, we always say, oh, it's going to be in the garages. And I know at some point we're going to be like, yikes, we don't have any more garage space. What are we going to do for this next development, and how are we going to handle that? Because there's nowhere to go, you know what I mean? So, yeah, we'll talk to that when we get there, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
Great questions and conversation. Any other questions? Do any attendees want to ask questions? Remember to raise your hand or type your question into the Q&A or chat. And anyone else that is a panelist, feel free to ask questions. Well, looks like we don't have any. Barbara, you want me to share the screen for next steps?
So again, you know, we'll be, you know, looking at this within the next 30 days. And provide additional input and comments. If anyone has any, they can go to, again, info@southsidecommunitycouncil.org. We will let you know when the Planning Commission meeting will take place. It has not been assigned a date yet. And, once, no doubt we'll continuing with the, the virtual meetings, but email testimony can also be shared with the Planning Commission or attendance at the virtual meeting. And, I would just like to thank, again, Tabitha and Jonathan and Eric and Chris for presenting. We're very anxious to see what's happening at Southside Works, and appreciate, you sharing. It's something that you need to do, but we're happy to see what's happening there. Also, thanks to everyone who has been in attendance, and we will be having meetings in September, October, November, December if we have development. September 24th, October 22nd, November 19th, December 17th. Mark your calendars. We'll be in touch regarding what will be presented if there are any development projects that need to come before us. And we'll continue to have information on our website about these projects and what's happening in the future. So, and thanks to Stephanie, Joy, and Anthony for their support on the dam. Anything else anyone need to share?
Everything looks quiet.
Okay, thought I was there alone for a minute, so I thought everybody had left.
We've got most participants still on.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thanks, everyone. We'll make sure that you get the recording, and yeah. Have a great evening.